Hey, Dave in Texas here. Thought I would enter Jam on Vinyls contest, and he asked two questions basically. One of them is to show 5 albums that contain songs that have to do with history. He's a history teacher, and so that kind of is in his wheelhouse. And then the second part is to show some albums, if you have them, that are monaural or mono. And I had a couple of those. I thought the history angle on the first question was interesting. So it got me thinking what albums I might have, that had songs on it pertaining to history. And so let's get started. I thought of this one here by Joni Mitchell. This has a song on it called Amelia, which is about Amelia Earhart. That's the inner sleeve. And Joni said she came up with it while driving. She just had a relationship that fell through and was driving across somewhere in the United States and thought of the song. And I guess her being solo, when she's driving, and also Amelia Earhart flew planes solo, she felt the kinship there. And of course, Amelia Earhart was a female aviator that flew planes first across the Atlantic Ocean, and then while flying across the Pacific Ocean, she disappeared. And back in the 1937. And so, at any rate, yeah, Joni Mitchell, Amelia. This is really a good album by her too, if you don't have it. See, the other one I thought of was, and I'd shown this before earlier. This is by the Neville Brothers, and they have a song on here called Sister Rosa, which is about the civil rights, the black lady in Montgomery, Alabama, that kind of got in trouble and got famous too at the same time during a bus incident where she was asked to move back in Alabama, and she, back in the black section, as they would say, and she refused to move, and she kind of became a spokesperson for civil rights during that era. And I'm sure, got things changed for segregation and all that type of thing. And yeah, it's about Rosa Parks, that civil rights activist. And then I got Gordon Lightfoot's. This is his greatest hits album, Gordon's Gold, or Gord's Gold. And I was going to talk about his the song The Sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And I pulled out the album and started looking at the songs on here, and that song's not on here, actually. I'd like to have that song, but but he's done some other songs on here, like the Canadian Railroad Trilogy, which also has some historical significance. He was commissioned by the Canadian Pacific Railway, I think in like the late 60s, to write a song celebrating the railroad, which is a Canadian railroad that goes from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean, and also goes down into the northern part of the United States. And so he accepted it and wrote this song on here called the Canadian Railroad Trilogy. And he patterned it after some other folk singers that he knew about, which was well, Gibson and Camp's folk song Civil War trilogy, and that was made famous by the Limelighters, another folk band or group. And anyway, he came up with the Canadian Pacific Railroad trilogy, which was, I guess, completed in the 1881. And supposedly the song is written, starts out slowly in tempo and then builds up steam as it goes along, much like a steam engine might do. So yeah, the Gordon Lightfoot's Canadian Railroad trilogy. And then let's see, here's one by Michael Martin Murphey. He's a singer-songwriter. Back when I used to live in Austin, he used to play down there quite a bit. But this song has this is his greatest hits, and I have another album by him, and they're pretty good. I like him. But this has a song on it called I don't know if you can see that, Geronimo's Cadillac, which is a song that Michael Murphey, he saw a picture which you can find on the web, the internet, a picture of Geronimo that's behind the wheel of a Cadillac and with some other people, and the song kind of inspired him to write that song. It just so happens that it was kind of a photo op, actually, is what they did, trying to show that you know, Geronimo was civilized and I don't know, just trying to promote, I guess, maybe good relationships between you know, the Native Americans and you know, the white people. Although, you know, just prior to the photograph, Geronimo supposedly had been in captivity, I believe at Fort Sill was what I read, and in Oklahoma. And anyway, that photograph inspired Michael Martin Murphey to write the song. And like I said, the photograph was taken at a press conference, and actually the Cadillac, he kind of fudged a little bit on to, I guess, create the song. It was actually not a Cadillac, but it was a Locomobile Model C. And any rate, he came up with that song, Geronimo's Cadillac, which I really enjoy. And then third, we have a smaller history here and more local history by Jerry Jeff Walker. He's another singer-songwriter out of the Austin area that was pretty popular back when I was there. I actually got to see him live in concert one time. And like I said, this is smaller history, but it's got the song on it called Charlie Dunn, and you can see Charlie right here. And he was a bootmaker down in Austin. Charlie was born in the late 1800s, and I believe lived to be around 95. And he came over to America on a ship, and then traveled to Texas in a covered wagon. So he'd been around, but and I think he took up bootmaking from one of his relatives, and I don't know if that was his father or somebody in his family had taught him bootmaking. But yeah, this is Jerry Jeff Walker's album. It doesn't have a title on it, I don't guess. I guess it's just called Jerry Jeff Walker. But at any rate, it has a song on it about the bootmaker in Austin called Charlie Dunn, who has since passed. But you know, he got real famous from the song, and supposedly, you know, a lot of stars and music people wanted him to make them boots, and got to where he could sell his boots for around $3,000 to $4,000, something like that, up to the point that he died. So yeah, Charlie Dunn by Jerry Jeff Walker. And then, let's see, he wanted us to show some mono albums. Now, when I first started out buying records a long time ago, I used to buy the mono albums, monophonic over the stereos, because they were $1 cheaper. So, but I don't have very many of those left. You know, once I started buying more and more records, I started buying them in stereo. But here's the Rolling Stones Between the Buttons, and as you can see down here in the corner, it says mono. And these early Stone albums, I always really liked these. Actually, these are the first couple of Rolling Stone albums that I purchased, even though I had a lot of their 45s. This one here too. You see it says mono down here. Aftermath by them, by the Rolling Stones. Really good album too. It's got Painted Black on it, and Stupid Girl, Lady Jane, Under My Thumb. A lot of their hits, actually. And then here's one by The Spirit of '67 by Paul Revere and the Raiders. Now it doesn't have it marked as mono, but it's also produced by Terry Melcher, which was a producer for a lot of these bands way back in the time, and he was also sort of tied up with the whole Sharon Tate Manson murders back in the late '60s. I think it was Manson was trying to kill him because Terry Melcher had kind of you know, sort of insulted him or something, saying or wouldn't record him, I'll put it that way back in the day, and so he kind of had a, you know, grievance against Melcher. But yeah, this one is mono, and you can't see it on the album cover anywhere actually. It's got a little code up here that tells you whether it's mono or stereo, monophonic or stereo, but this one happens to be mono. And the same thing holds true for this Ventures album. This is a Ventures album. It just has a lot of hits on it from back in the day, a lot of Spy, 007 type stuff. And again, it's got like little codes down here that tells you where it's monophonic or stereo. I bet you anything, if I remember correctly, there was a little sticker on it, you know, that said whether these things were stereo or monophonic. And like I said, I was picking up the monophonic ones just because they were $1 cheaper up until, you know, I wanted to get stereo, you know, particularly when the Beatles, I started buying Beatles albums. I wanted those in stereo. So at any rate, that is my contribution for the contest for Jam on Vinyl. I think he just started this contest, and then I'd like to enter one by Elliot Cruz, who has a contest out too. Maybe I could do that tomorrow or the next day. His is on, he has some very good questions, and then also would kind of like to do something on the blues, which was a set of videos started also, so maybe there's a blues thread sort of. Anyway, that's my entry for Jam on Vinyl and his wanting to show historical music. And so anyway, thanks for watching.